Test, 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 test. Captions, captions. Test.
right now? Yeah. Okay, just so you're aware.
Look at that. Better knock all Frank's stuff off. There we go. Thank you, sir.
How's everybody doing today?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Good. Weather's working a little backwards. Mary, I'll get it for you. I got it. I'll do the call. I do the roll call.
Oh,
It's okay. We'll work together.
fantastic.
Commissioner Barrero? Absent. Commissioner Bravo?
Present.
Commissioner Brown? Absent. Commissioner Crudup? Absent. Commissioner Garwick?
Present.
Commissioner Call?
Here.
Commissioner Linval? Absent. Commissioner Martin?
Present.
Commissioner McDowell?
Present.
Commissioner Pakela? And we have a quorum.
All right, next on our agenda is the acceptance of the journal for the last meeting on September 11th. Do I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So the journal is
All in favor?
all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All right, so the next item on our agenda is public speakers. We do not have any tonight, so we're going to move on to our information portion of the meeting. And we have with us tonight City Manager Anna Garrison, who is with our Economic Development Department.
Oh, you didn't bring a thumb drive?
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Should I go? Do you have a thumb drive? Or I can go get my computer?
Yeah, I don't have.
I have my computer. Can we plug in my computer?
Usually, we just send them to IT and they load them up.
We load them up. Normally we can have them in my child.
Yes.
They do have the slides.
Yeah, they do.
Let's do that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Anna. I'm sorry.
That's my bad.
Slides of paper.
manager in the city of Rockford. And I'll be reviewing the programming that we had the last couple of years, as well as some of the key information that we're kind of gaining as we are running through these programs. So to start, I just wanted to go through some of the cost reduction tools that we do have available within the city and how those work, and really how we can utilize those then when it comes to some of our programming. Rockford, so the first one we have listed is tax increment financing districts. Rockford has 31 TIF districts. They are located throughout the city, and the easiest way to think about a TIF district is it's a geographical boundary that has met certain criteria, and once designated, portions of the property taxes from that area are set aside to be invested back into that area. And that might be through the city taking on a specific infrastructure project, but most often here within Rockford, it's utilized by us to encourage additional private investment in that area. I also have listed here Enterprise Zone and River Edge Redevelopment Zone. So both of those are actually state programs, and there's a lot of different incentives available on the state level. Locally, though, we administer two aspects of the programs. One is called the Building Materials Sales Tax Exemption. With that, if you're located in one of those areas, you're able to apply for your project, and then any of the building materials that you place into that property are sales tax exempt. So very similar to a nonprofit receiving a certificate to not have to pay sales tax. Then we also, if a property has a project that's located in one of those areas but is not in a TIF district, they're eligible for a City of Rockford property tax abatement on improvements created by that project on the property. And then finally, I have listed here our Community Development Block Grant. Those are federal dollars that we get through HUD, and I will be going through a little bit later, or actually right next after this, one of the programs that we've created that utilizes that as a funding source. So in 2024, we ran our business growth program that did use CDBG fund, dollars. We had $125,000 set aside for that business growth program. We ran it as a competitive program, and businesses were able to apply for up to $25,000 on a matching basis. So a project would have to be $50,000 in order to get that full 25. And the projects were supposed to show a growth of the business. So not necessarily a physical growth, but if they added a service line or additional equipment that meant they could tap into a different industry. So there had to be an additional component to the business for them to be applying for. So we had, as I said, it was a competitive program, and so the actual number of applications started versus those submitted was pretty significant, but we had 119 people start an application for that program, but only 18 projects actually submitted. We went through a scoring process for our 5 then recipients. So listed then on that next slide are the 5 businesses that have received or have signed development agreements under this program. Only one of them has actually completed a project at this time, but it just kind of gives you an example of how long some of these projects can take. So we had that program ran at the middle of 2024. Most of our development agreements weren't signed, though, until December of that year. And that was still, even after somebody may have received a pre-approval for receiving funding under the program, there were additional components of information that we were requesting that we had to receive prior to actually signing the development agreements. So those were signed in December, and then those businesses have 1 year to complete their projects. So you'll see a few photos from Chavez Mexican Restaurante. What they had applied for, and what you can see here, was equipment for catering. And so, they are located on East State Street. and wanted to be able to also offer catering. So their project was that additional service line under their business, there you can see their pictures of the results. Going on then to programming that we have are holding this year. I'm going to go through two programs, and they're pretty similar. There's just a few smaller adjustments between the two. The first is the Commercial Corridor Property Revitalization Program. So that was held in 7 corridors throughout, 7 key commercial corridors throughout the Rockford area. So Harrison, Charles, South Alpine, 11th Street, South Main, and North Main. Each of those corridors, then we had $125,000 set aside for projects. Either a property owner or a business would be able to apply for up to $25,000. And in this case, we covered 75% of an overall project cost. So it's around $33,000 of a project where you would be able to get up to that full $25,000. And these projects needed to be for exterior improvements. So it could be a parking lot, a roof, tuck pointing, a front, new doors, windows, and then interior projects were eligible if it was for accessibility. So the next, I'll be going through a TIF program that's very similar, but in that instance, we did have somebody who applied for the accessibility component. So for the Commercial Corridor Program, we had 42 applications. We provided 31 pre-approvals, and we currently have 12 projects that are moving forward. Not all of those have signed development agreements yet. We're still working with the potential recipients to make sure we have everything appropriately documented. Because we did not use all of the funding for that program, we are going to be offering a round 2, and that is going to be opening up on October 27th. The TIF Commercial and Industrial Rehabilitation Program was very similar. In this instance, it was held in 9 of our TIF districts, and each of those TIF districts had $150,000 designated. Again, it was up to $25,000 as a forgivable loan, but in this case, we would only be covering 50% of the project costs. Again, it was for exterior improvements except for the accessibility. We had 38 applications submitted. We issued 20 pre-approvals, and then we also have 12 projects moving forward under this program as well. Later this year, we are going to be opening the Business Advancement Program. That's going to be very similar to that Business Growth Program that I just shared. We're tweaking the name a little bit to help clarify some misunderstandings. When you use the word growth, sometimes people think it's a physical growth, and we don't want to have that as a misconception. Nobody needs to change locations or expand their physical footprint. So again, though, it's going to be offered as a $25,000 forgivable loan, covering 50% of project costs. One key component when we're using CDBG funding is when it comes to economic development, for every $35,000 provided in funding, 1 job has to be created. And so in this instance, like our Business Growth Program, after receiving the funding to complete that project, the business would have to hire an employee. We're going to offer this starting December 1st through the 31st. It is going to be run as a competitive program again, and we anticipate being able to select 5 projects to move forward. So the final slide here was, I was trying to kind of demonstrate some of the situations and feedback that we get from our programming, and you'll see that we have a lot of people who might start to apply for one of our programs, but we're not issuing as many projects or pushing as many projects forward as we would like. And so these are some of the 4 main reasons of what happens and why we might have somebody apply, get a pre-approval, but then never actually go through the process of completing their project. One is the fact that we do ask for matching funds. We use the word matching funds in our programming, but really it's just the private commitment that any of our projects that get public support also contribute. In this instance, we use that phrase to just demonstrate that whether it be a business or a property owner, we're looking for longevity in that project. It's a way for us to demonstrate that they do plan to complete this project and stay in that location for a certain period of time. It shows that they have the financial capacity as well. And we want to make sure that our public funding is going to the projects that are going to be sustainable. So we've kept that as a component, but it is something that we know is a hindrance for the people, for businesses and property owners who are looking to apply. We also face a lot of situations where our project requirements don't necessarily align with what a project that somebody has. Or we might have a business apply for the program, and actually it's the property owner's responsibility to actually complete that project. And so then we're having to go back to reach out to the property owner and say, well, how can we help support this so that the business can stay here and be success? There's also, we always have funding and program requirements. I mentioned the situation where you have to hire one job, create one new job for some of the funding. We have requirements that you have to stay in the location, you don't have to stay in your location, but you have to stay in the city of Rockford for 5 years. If it's a property owner, that you maintain ownership of that property for 5 years. That can be something that, somebody might question whether or not it's the right way for them to secure some of that funding and move it forward. And then also because oftentimes, given the level of funding that we're looking at in these programs, we're working with small businesses and maybe property owners that only have a few properties. They don't have necessarily the capacity to administer some of the projects in the same way that they would like. And so, we have deadlines and requirements of financial information that has to be submitted. And those, meeting those requirements while still running their business, they don't have the ability to manage both, and so they might withdraw from one of our programs. So these are, we're aware of these. We try to work with everybody as well as we can. We offer technical assistance for any of our programs for the application period. We also, we have deadlines and we try to stick with those deadlines, but we also want to be flexible and understand how can we work better with the people that are applying for these programs as well. So as I had mentioned before, we have our round 2 for the corridor program opening at the end of October. We'll also be opening that other business advancement program in December. Those are our structured programs, but also I always want to make sure that the community is aware that if there's something that or a business or a property that's not falling into what we're offering as a program, for them to still reach out to us. I see us as problem solvers. Maybe we don't have the right solution, and maybe the funding that we have isn't the right solution, but we can make a connection and provide a resource to something that might be a better support system. So that's the other piece. I have on the last slide the members of the economic development team and our information. So feel free to share it with whoever you'd like and make sure that they are contacting us so we can see how we can support them. And with that, if there's any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Manager Garrison? Commissioner Bravo.
Yes, just a quick question. You had mentioned earlier about the scoring process. Can you talk a little bit about what that consists of?
Sure. So we are currently only doing competitive programs like that when we're using our CDBG funding. And with that, it's a rubric. We do share that when we send out the NOFO. We're looking at a couple of different things. One of them is their financial capacity, and not necessarily whether they have the finances, but actually that it's being documented in the right way. So we might make sure that when we've requested taxes that we actually received all of the taxes. We also, or all the documentation of taxes. We also have a scoring when it comes to the actual project and whether the applicant, is it something that would be a manageable project? So we're evaluating the project. And then also the impact it would have. So how are we being good stewards of that funding that's being set aside for this program? Where do we see the longevity of that compared to the other projects that have been submitted?
Commissioner Pacella.
This isn't a question, this is just a comment. Like when you were talking about being problem solvers, so this just seems like something relevant to what you're talking about. So I've been following this new business that's trying to open downtown on their social media, and they've been posting routinely about how they can't get their permits in line. I have no idea what the backstory about that is, but in light of what you're talking about wanting people to bring their businesses to Rockford, one of the comments in this last post that I read was, it's no wonder that larger chain restaurants and places like that are more successful in establishing themselves as businesses in Rockford because they have a greater capacity for, I guess, all of these things on the business side versus like a small business who maybe they don't have the same infrastructure to know about permitting and whatever, and they've been wanting to open, et cetera, which I just kind of felt like, I felt badly because, I know that there is this push to help small businesses to succeed. So anyway, I just offer that as a...
Yeah, I actually appreciate that.
As an FYI.
I appreciate that, and thank you. Sure. I will follow up. I think I can assume where we're headed with which business that is. What I would share with that is, for us in economic development, when somebody might be having issue with a permit, I can't change that process downstairs, but what I can offer is we can be a resource when it comes to navigating that. And what we do have done is are the contact for some of those small businesses to help them understand that process. So if ever, I'll follow up on the situation we're talking about right now, but for the future, feel free that people can contact us. We can't change those things, but we can offer some additional insight and guidance, and then also make sure that we can try to cushion the process as much as possible.
And like I said, I offer that with like almost no information about what more to the point, like this is what people who are just scrolling social media are seeing, which is important.
Exactly, right, and it's an unfortunate, it pains to learn that somebody's going through that problem, so to see how we can potentially offer assistance. Thank you for that, yeah.
Any other questions for Manager Garrison? I actually have a question. It sounds like you are on social media, so it sounds like you are well aware of some of the issues. I guess I do have a question about what methods you use for outreach, not just for businesses to apply for these various kind of complex programs, but to keep in contact with them and to make sure that things are progressing well. Sure.
So are you talking about just businesses in general or businesses that are in our programs?
Businesses in general.
In the programs?
Mm-hmm. Well, businesses in general that might qualify for these funds.
Gotcha. So when we release any type of program, we do go, we'll have a press release, we'll put it on social media. We have a small business newsletter. So anybody who has signed up for that, that's available. It's on the city's website, but if ever, we will routinely just be signing up people as we've gathered their information. So we'll send it out through that. We share the information with our community partners, so any of the chambers, the SBDC, so that they also are aware of the programming. And then I would love to be able to do this. We try as best we can when there are physical boundaries to our programs. So, for example, the second round of the corridor program that we're opening up, our intent is to actually go door to door for those businesses to understand that they have this opportunity. Primarily, we had areas where we didn't have anyone apply. So to me, that goes, they didn't know. And if we have something there and they aren't aware of it, and City Council has provided this funding, let's figure out. So the difficulty with that is balancing. I want to make sure that we can get to every single one, then to give that fair opportunity to everybody who might be eligible, and balancing that with staff time. So, but we try to do as best we can to make sure that people are aware of that. Mm-hmm.
So there's a bit of physical outreach as well, that you do visit these businesses, the eligible ones as well as the ones in the program programs already.
Correct. So if we're announcing a program, yes, we will. We can't. So when we did the corridor program and the TIF program earlier this year, they were run at the same time. So we did not go to each property at that time that was eligible. For the second round, we're going to, because we weren't seeing the results that we would have wanted to. While projects are going, or while a business or a property owner is going through one of our programs, I would say at the beginning, we probably meet with them maybe 4 to 5 times as it's gathering information. We have literally had to sit down and put together the budgets with them for them to be able to make sure it aligns. And then signing a development agreement. There might be then a bit of a pause in between our contact before there's enough movement on a project to warrant a next time that we would meet with them.
One last question. You never want to ask a former journalist if she has any more questions, but what about follow-up for some of these programs after they've exited? What kind of follow-up do you do?
Right. So for 5 years, we offer the funding as 5-year forgivable loans. So each year, we actually do a check-in. In these instances, we're primarily making sure that the business is still open. Our community is small enough that normally we understand that prior to that, but we make sure that the business is still open, or that if it's a property owner, that they still have they still own that property. That happens for 5 years. And that's also when we provide, once we confirm that, we provide that 20% of your loan has been forgiven, so that they can also understand that this is a loan and that there are expectations and we're tracking that information appropriately. If somebody, after that, and they're not necessarily in our program, if our interactions with them would be more like on an as-needed basis.
Any additional questions? Oh, thank you so much. Very informative. Appreciate it. Is Director you were there. Okay, fantastic. The next item on our agenda is a Finance Department update, and this is Director Carrie Haggerty with the City of Rockford Finance Department.
Yes, and slightly less exciting than Anna's presentation, but I will do my best to keep you all engaged. So thank you all for your time today. Certainly, generally when I'm presenting financial information, I don't like to make people wait till the end to ask questions. So if you have questions about anything I'm doing while I'm presenting, please feel free to chime in. I'm happy to answer questions as I go. So I believe you all have a copy of the presentation in front of you. So I will just briefly walk through this. The second slide here is our 2025 general fund budget. So our general fund is our least restrictive sort of operating fund that the city operates. In governments, we use governmental accounting, so we kind of break what we do up into separate funds. The general fund includes police, fire, streets and traffic, stormwater engineering, forestry. It includes HR, finance, the legal department. It includes code enforcement. It includes our building department, economic development, where Anna's team lives. So really it's the major operating fund that we have for the city, where what you consider to be core city services operate out of. So our 2025 general fund budget is $226 million. We did present a balanced budget to City Council. By state law. We're required to approve a balanced budget every year. We cannot operate at a deficit. When you don't print money, that's hard to do, right? So as you can see, our revenue mix in the general fund is pretty dynamic. Property tax about 21%, transfers from other funds, so this is purchasing services from the general fund, about 13%, fines 0.5%, charges for services are 16%, intergovernmental revenues 22%, licenses 3%, and other taxes are 23%. On the expense side, Police and fire, obviously public safety are the majority of our budget, about 75%. Public works is another approximately 10%. Then you can see their community and economic development. They're another approximately 8%. And then the support departments, like I said, legal, finance, HR, another 8% or so. And just to note too, our community development budget at $17 million includes $13 million in our garbage collection contract. So really the staff, the operating costs associated with that are much smaller than that $17 million number. Some challenges that we expect to see as we move into the 2026 budget, which we will be presenting to City Council a week from Monday. Our contribution required by state law into both the police and fire pension funds increases 15% or almost $5.3 million. Our pension benefits are defined by state law and wholly funded at the local level. So the state does not contribute at all to our local police and fire pensions, even though the state legislators define what those benefits look like. We fund that through sort of three sources. One is employee contributions. The employees do contribute a % of their salary. Investment returns, so the funds that we hold are invested and have a return on that investment annually. And then the city effectively makes up the difference. Pension funding is probably singularly the biggest challenge for municipal operating budgets in the state of Illinois. We have growing obligations, and really the pension funding requirements from the get-go were insufficient to keep up with the demands for benefits. The city is always funded according to what the state law requires. It just hasn't been sufficient to keep up with the growth in pay and the growth in benefits, people living longer, those sorts of things that happen over time. So it's a benefit that these folks are absolutely entitled to. They did the work, they earned the benefit. That benefit is protected under the state constitution. But finding out a way to responsibly pay for that doesn't impact our ability to provide services today is a real struggle, not just for the city of Rockford, but for communities across the state. On top of that, we have labor agreements that govern most of our interactions, pay, benefits for our employees. The fire union is currently expired and under negotiation. Our police contract and AFSCME, which covers public works, some community development, some administrative staff, those both expire at the end of this year, and we're beginning those negotiation processes as well. So we don't have a clear picture over the next couple years of what our growth in labor costs will be until those negotiation processes are resolved. Federal policy and funding uncertainty primarily for our health and human services programs, which aren't part of the general fund. They're a separate, what we call, special revenue fund. But obviously these programs are serving those in our community that need assistance the most. That includes Head Start programs, it includes homeless prevention, LIHEAP or energy assistance programs. We have programs to help with residential property improvements, energy efficiency improvements to homes. All of those programs, currently funding is in question pending some resolution to the federal budget process, and certainly would have a significant impact on people in our community if that were to be reduced dramatically. On top of that, obviously, we have things like tariff policy that impacts the city because we buy lots of things, right? So we buy goods and services that we need to do our job every day, and we're beginning to see the impacts of increased tariffs on some of the things that we consume as a community. Finally, slowing economic growth and uncertainty in the labor market. There was just a news story the other day about several major employers in the state of Illinois that are announcing layoffs going into 2026. A big part of our budget, more so even than property taxes, or almost more than property taxes, is sales tax revenue. That's really, how much are you earning and how much do you have to spend? And so when our community is well compensated and fully employed, the city benefits from that confidence that comes through purchases, transactions, and sales tax generally. If that declines, that's the first indication. It's what we call a highly elastic revenue. It's the first indication that we're beginning to see an economic downturn. So uncertainty in the labor market as well. Even if you have a job, the uncertainty if it's going to be there tomorrow will, make people think twice about, buying a new refrigerator or, taking that vacation, spending money. So those things all contribute to revenue that the city brings in. We collect income tax revenue, and that's actually collected and remitted back to the city statewide. So all income tax is collected at the state level and then distributed per person on a per capita basis back to municipalities. So Rockford's immediate labor market is not necessarily a determination on how much revenue we collect. It's how the state goes. So we had a surprisingly strong recovery post-COVID and benefited from really a couple of the strongest financial years that I've seen this is my 24th budget. In my time here, honestly, the 2 years we haven't started with a deficit were the last two. So we don't expect that trend to continue. So understanding how federal tax laws, federal policies, and our own sort of local operating conditions impact our budget, it's definitely going to be a challenge next year. So tune in if you would like to hear more. A week from Monday, we will be presenting that to City Council. The next page I mentioned sort of briefly elastic revenue. We had some pretty significant elastic revenue fluctuations in 2022 and 2023, which drove some budget operating surpluses that we were able to deploy in ways that really benefited the city and I think the community as a whole. We used some of those funds for the road projects that everyone was very frustrated with this year, but we did work on Spring Creek, Mulford, Alpine. There's Auburn Street is in the works. So some really great investment in public infrastructure with those funds. We've also set aside funds between some COVID-related assistance and surplus funds to build a new fire station, Station 10, which is going to be relocated from Rural Street to East 8th Street. And to be able to do that and pay cash for it is a big deal. So to not have to sell bonds and endure that interest expense is a great investment. We'd also, all of those years of deficits meant that we were not investing in our facilities as much as we should have. So we were able to put some additional funding into our public works yards, where most of our public works field staff operate out of. The building had a series of tarps and hoses to divert the leaking roof water away from the work area. And so when you see people working in those kinds of conditions every day, there's a serious need to invest in our buildings. Our former fire chief, Derek Bergston, brought me to a fire station one day where he said, we really need to replace some windows. It's a real problem. So he brought me to the station and showed me where snow was coming in on the pillow in the bunk room where they sleep at night. So these types of, our facilities really needed some help. So we invested in roofs, HVAC systems, adding generators for emergency operations. Most of our fire stations have one common locker room, one common bunk area. And obviously, fire stations are not staffed exclusively by men anymore. So we're investing in creating separate shower locker facilities for men and women. We're investing in creating separate sleep areas. So each person will have their own sort of dorm room, so to speak. So, they live in these buildings. They, you know, they cook dinner, they eat meals together, they sleep. So it's really important. And using some of these funds to invest in that was very important as part of this process. But if you look at this table here, or at this graph here, the middle blue bar, which is replacement tax, was really what was driving that. So replacement tax is effectively a corporate profit tax. And out of COVID, there were lots of businesses that did really, really well during that time period. There were also some federal tax law changes that influenced the way earnings were filed and how those got reported to the state. So we went from what was typically a $6 to $7 million a year revenue source to over $30 million one year and over $20 million the next. We anticipate that that revenue source will fall back down to historical levels over the next couple of years, but we were able to use those funds for what we thought were really great investments in preventing future emergency expenditures and really investing in the future of those operations. The next slide here, just to give you an idea of the finance department, who we are and what we do. We're broken into 3 divisions. Our accounting division seems pretty straightforward, right? We know what accountants do: general accounting, audit, payroll. They handle accounts payable, accounts receivable, and we also handle all of our police and fire pensioners' payroll. So that's over 600 people. We have more we have more police and fire pensioners than we have active employees. So we run monthly payroll for the pensioners. Our central services division handles budget, purchasing, risk management, and general management analysis. When the mayor wants to know how much it would cost to do something, we're the ones that figure that out. And then our customer service division handles water billing, water customer service, business licenses, and operates as sort of a one call to City Hall. If you call our general City Hall number, it goes to them. They'll do their best to help. Otherwise, he'll get you to the right location. And then the last slide there, some of the initiatives that we're working on in the finance department. We prepared last year our first ever what's called a PAFR, or a Popular Annual Financial Report, which is the intent is to take what is a lengthy and very technical document, or our annual audit, and put it into a brief, it's less than 10 pages, sort of digestible to the public document. I think some would argue it's still not very digestible, but it is financial information that we're really trying to help the public understand. How are we doing as a community? What are the city's finances like? How well positioned are we to handle what might come our way as a community from a financial perspective? So that document, I think, and we had some aldermen that encouraged that process. It was a lot of work, but it's, I think, a very useful document if someone is interested in looking at that kind of information. It's a small audience, I know, but it's there in case someone wants to look. And we really do try to make our budget and financial information as digestible as we can. I know it is complicated. We also, City Council just approved an upgrade to our business licensing system that we use. It's currently very antiquated. We use PDF documents saved on our website that people have to fill out or print and fill out and send in. So this will allow for a completely online process and this includes our liquor and tobacco license renewals annually. They'll be able to submit all that online, attach appropriate documentation, pay for their permits online. They never have to come into City Hall and drop things off. It'll also give us a bit better sort of workflow on the back end to get all of our approvals in place and make the process move much more smoothly. So we're excited to get the ball rolling on that. We're also working on implementing a fully online bid system. Right now, we're still taking in paper bids or RFPs and having a public paper opening. We're moving to a system that will allow us to do that electronically as well. And then grant management, near and dear to Michaela's heart. We're working on after a first failed attempt to select a grant management software program. The city receives millions and millions of dollars in state and federal assistance on an annual basis, and the rules around administering those funds become more complicated every year. It's a moving target. So we are looking for a system that will help us streamline how we keep track of those grants, how we comply with the requirements under those grant agreements, how well any subgrantees or subcontractors that we engage to help us implement a grant, how well they're doing, which I think will help tremendously with our internal staff time that we spend sort of managing what can be a real challenge at times, and allow us to continue to receive those funds, because they're not going to give it to us if we don't manage it well. So I think really effective management of grant funds is really important to keep those dollars coming back into our community. And that is all I had. I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director Haggerty. I do have to comment, your 24th year?
Yes.
24th budget?
Yes.
Did you start here when you were 10, or?
I was 23 and had 2 months left of grad school when I started here. So yes, it's been, you could do the math and figure out how old I am, but
sorry about that.
I grew up here. I've been in the finance department my whole career, and I've been director for the last, I was appointed right before Mayor McNamara was elected. So it's been a great, obviously I like it. I'm still here. So
fantastic. Well,
yes.
Thank you for what you do, and thank you for a very understandable report. Any questions from the commissioners for Director Haggerty?
I've got one.
Sure.
You had mentioned that the pension contribution is a state directive.
Correct.
Is that a uniform figure for all municipalities in the state of Illinois? Or as it fluctuates for everybody?
So the structure of the benefit is the same for all municipalities. So if you're a police officer here or in Rockton, or your benefit will be the same, calculated in the same manner. The state in 2022 approved legislation to consolidate we used to invest funds here locally. They approved a pension consolidation plan that effectively takes all of the invested holdings of every little pension fund throughout the state on the police side and separately on the fire side, and condenses them for purposes of investments. The idea is, at scale, they will get better investment returns than a small, there's some pension funds in the state that have 2 or 3 members, right? So they don't have the resources to invest that well. So that said, we have our individual experience in our plan determines what our contributions will be. So we may have what kind of salary increases we give out affects that. How many of our employees are married? How many of them have children? How old they are? We have really shifted over the last couple of years to very young, much younger police and fire departments. That's one of the reasons why we have more pensioners than we have active employees, right? So there are a lot of factors that go in, and the city hires an actuary who does a calculation every year based on, who did we hire, who retired, who passed away, who got married, who got divorced. All of those things kind of factor in to what that requirement will be. On top of that, how much did our employees contribute, and what were our investment returns in the last year? So that investment return number should be the same across the board, across the state. But all of those other factors vary dramatically from department to department.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions for the director? I wondered where the PAFR
Yes,
is
PAFR.
available.
It is currently posted on the city's website. If you go to the finance department, we have a financial information page. From there, you can get budgets, audits, our PAFR. We have a number of other financial reports, an annual treasurer's report. We have a compensation report we're required to post that includes salary information. All of that is posted on that financial information page.
Very good. And another question. The city has kept its tax levy fairly stable for a number of years,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How many years?
I believe we are on year 13 of a flat property tax levy.
Wow.
Yes.
And how does that stack up with comparable communities in the state of Illinois?
Oh, I would say there are very few, if any, that have really. It's required a significant amount of discipline to hold the line while we made reductions in budget. I mean, really, you have to reduce your budget by whatever you would have increased in property taxes. So it has forced some really creative approaches to how we operate and how we pay for services. I can't say that I'm aware of any community in the state that has done anything like this.
Well, I think that is really good news, and I think as commissioners, perhaps it is our obligation to share that good news, because we do hear from the citizens a lot of complaints, and obviously some of them are warranted, but as far as on the tax front, that is really an impressive accomplishment.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
How many years again?
13.
13.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, kudos to the entire city operation.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Well, this is a minor one.
Yeah, sure.
If I missed it, forgive me, but on your revenue and expense pie chart, under expenses, there's a little brown wedge.
Yes.
What is that for?
That is, so the city is, because we're big, we end up becoming financial partners or grant recipients in a couple of situations. That little sliver there includes the Workforce Connection, which is funded by federal workforce development dollars. It's a separate organization. We have no control or say over how they operate. They provide job training for businesses throughout the community and individuals. But the grant is structured or the federal program is structured in such a way that a municipality has to be the recipient of the funds. So really, we receive the funds and just pass them along. Additionally, the Board of Elections is included in that tiny little sliver.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you
yes,
very much.
thank
Director.
you all
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
All right, the next item on our agenda is a police department update with Chief Carla Red with the City of Rockford Police Department.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Thank you.
And thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
So that packet may seem a little bit thick, but I'll do my best to get through it as quickly as possible. Once again, Carla Red, I am a Rockfordian. Just completed my 4th year as the chief of police here. I have 27 years on the department. So I decided what I would do is share some of the stats, that year-over-year stats that we have in-house. And because I will tell you, the men and women of the police department, they do a phenomenal job. I shared this information earlier with Next Rockford and couldn't be more proud. I'm like that proud mama bear, if you will. So your first slide will actually show you the calls for service in the city of Rockford. And what we like to see is that decline in calls for service. So you look at 2023 versus 2024, roughly 18,000 calls less. You look at those 2 years. That next page shows you that our violent crime is down by 6%. This is not anything unique of Rockford. However, I can tell you not every city is seeing those results. That number is greatly attributed to the hard work of those that work for the police department. I shared earlier today that we are very much data-driven. We're analytical about the work that we do. So there is, the saying exists for as long as I've been around, that there are roughly 10% of your population that creates 90% or attribute to 90% of the crime. So you'll hear that some more as we dive into things a little bit more. So you look at the trend of violent crime from 2020 through 2024. 2021, we had an uptick. And looking at 23 and 24, those numbers definitely showed a decrease. With that next page, with that decrease in violent crime, you'll see where the domestic-related violent crime has increased. With the opening of the Family Peace Center and the phenomenal work that they're doing out in the community and educating our residents around what domestic violence is and not being ashamed to report it. And I have regular conversations with Jennifer and the mayor around domestic violence as well. And there was a bit of, they were looking for those numbers to decline, but as you compress the numbers and the violent crime is decreasing, that percentage of DV is increasing because it's remaining pretty consistent with the numbers that we're seeing. Okay. Look at the homicide numbers. 23 over 24, we're down 10.5%. I can tell you within the last 3 weeks, we were roughly at 6-7 murders for the year. And that's unheard of when you look at 23 and 24. And unfortunately, over the last couple of weeks, there were some incidents that took place. So right now, we're at 10 murders and 2 months to go for the remaining of the year. That following page shows you the homicide trends year over year. 2020 was a very rough year for us. I remember coming off a during the COVID shutdown, there was like not a soul on the street. Everybody was remaining in their homes. And right after, after that 3-month hiatus, 4-month hiatus, things they sparked out of control for us, and those numbers do reflect that. Okay. I shared also that when we look at that next page, look at the clearance rate from 22 to 23 and 24. So when I talk about the phenomenal work being done, to have a homicide clearance rate at 90% and 89%. Been on the department 27 years. This is the first time I can recall those clearance rates being that high. And very strategically, it's about putting the right people in the right places. And they're just doing an outstanding job with, solving the pieces of the puzzle. Carrie shared some information with the finance for police and fire. We've invested heavily in technology as well, which, like I said, we have great officers on the department, but the technology helps a lot. All right. Aggravated assaults is the next page that you have there, which is down 7.6%. Then you take a look at our shots fired, down 31% last year. It's going to be down, we were looking at, I'll jump to the next slide. We were looking at individuals struck by gunfire. 20 and 24, we had 83 people struck by gunfire. I believe right now our number is roughly about 35 people struck by gunfire. You look at the year before, there was 103. Took a look at some data back in, I think it was 2005, where we had 300 people struck by gunfire. And to see that number this year, where we're sitting at, being 35. And I will say that we often have individuals that are victims, but they don't cooperate with the police because of the lifestyle that they live, they're involved in gang activity and things of that nature. They'd much rather not have the police apprehend those individuals who perpetrated a crime on them because they want to resolve it in the street. And so with that, we've been intentional with working with the state's attorney's office and having our people go back, because typically they're not involved in one crime. They're involved in multiple crimes. So we do take a deep dive and look at, okay, what else is this individual involved in? Is there another case out there that we could work on that perhaps didn't get all of the attention that it could have been given, to see if that's something that we can kind of quell things with by taking one of them off of the street, especially when they're feuding with each other. Guns recovered. 2021, it's not on this slide, but we had an exceptional year for gun recovery, where there was over 430 guns that were recovered that year. So as you look at this slide, it shows a constant decrease in guns being recovered. I also like to think that has to do with us taking those individuals off of the street who we know are responsible for those activities. And we also have an officer assigned to ATF, our ATF office here in Rockford as well. So those cases that can be charged federally, we do work with our federal partners to ensure that they're charged appropriately. Okay, property crimes are down 9.3%. And we often refer to this as, you have to look at crimes of opportunity, where individuals might leave things unsecured. I shared earlier today where, you know, it gets nice in the summertime and people aren't working in the yard. They have a tendency to leave things unattended. And as the fall is upon us, people will be doing the same thing by, you know, removing leaves and things and leaving garages open. So we like them to pay more attention to that. So we do education out in the community around those things as well. Our robberies are down 21.5%, which is another phenomenal number. And despite, the next slide shows you auto thefts. So despite the vehicle defaults that we know that exists with the Hyundais and Kias, we're still seeing a decline in those numbers. We are currently working on a program, hopefully, with a couple of the dealerships to help us keep those numbers on a decline. Narcotic recoveries, especially looking at 23 and 24, you'll see some slight changes where the numbers weren't as quite high the previous year. And of course, police staffing is always a question that I hear about. And there's a slide that will cover that. But I have to let you know that our first priority is having frontline officers available to respond to calls for service. So I have to have officers on the street, which means some of my other units may not be fully staffed in the Detective Bureau and things of that nature, but we'll be able to backfill those numbers as we continue to increase the number of officers on the street. I believe every opportunity that I go out and speak is an opportunity for recruitment. Right now, we are hiring. We opened up a cycle a couple weeks ago that doesn't end until November 4th. So, our traffic citations, as you can see, year over year from 22 to 23, there was a slight decline. In 2024, City Council approved moving license plate readers in all of our Mark Squad cars that are on the street. So prior to 24, the only vehicles that had the moving radars in them were the traffic division. So now every Mark Squad car that you see on the street patrolling, they have front and, yeah, that's the warning, they have front and rear moving radars. So just be cautious. All right. Recruitment stats. I talked about recruitment. When I took over as chief of the Rockford Police Department, we were doing only 2 recruitment cycles a year. And just looking at attrition, you know, retirements, people deciding, I want to try a different field of work and no longer do law enforcement, there was no way we were going to keep up with those numbers, get our staffing up to where we needed to be. So in 2022, I instituted a recruitment team. Essentially, they serve as ambassadors for the Rockford Police Department. I have one recruiter that's, you know, assigned full-time with the Rockford Police Department. She does a phenomenal job, She's a bit of a control freak like myself, but also recognizing the limitations. There's so many opportunities for us to go out and recruit various job fairs and events that are taking place. She can't do it all, nor do I expect her to do it all. So we put letters out for officers who were interested in being those ambassadors for the Rockford Police Department. So when time affords, if they're not working shift or if I have enough bodies on the shift and I can pull those officers to send them to one of the events, they will go. And it's just nice to have, you know, a group of young folks that really want to go out and sell the department for you. And it's to the point now they've taken on the initiatives themselves, and they're going out and looking for events that they can go to and attend for recruitment purposes. So looking at those numbers, applicants, and this is all three recruitment cycles, where in 22 we had 315, 23, 317, and look at 24 where we had 466 applicants. So far, as of today, we're at 363 applicants, and we roughly have another 3 weeks to go that this application cycle will be open. And you can see those numbers for those that were qualified to test, but you look at those that were actually hired, and you look at 22 to 25, I'm sorry. In 2022, we hired 27 officers. For 25, I've already hired 21 officers, and there's probably another, there was 18 that passed everything with the interviews with the Fire and Police Commissioner. So I'm probably going to hire 13 of the 18. So those numbers are continually increasing for us as well. All right. I will add, those next couple slides are community partnerships and events that we attend. Typically, we average about 70 plus events a year that the Rockford Police Department participates in. And my public information officer, Michelle Markham, she was with me earlier today, and just kudos to her because she does a phenomenal job with getting information out to the public because we really are community-centered, community-driven. I'd also have to mention when I talk about the solve rate of, you know, the crimes that were taking place, of the homicides, our public has been phenomenal with coming forward with information. And we know that relationship does not exist with every law enforcement agency. But I'd like to say we've done made enough positive impacts in the community where that our community members are more comfortable coming forward with information when they have it. So in addition to that, you'll see a couple of events that we have coming up, which are Pumpkins with the Police, the Trunk or Treat, and also there's one page with the badge on it. This page has links that will get you information that, you know, you may be inquiring about, or someone who knows you serve as a commissioner may ask, hey, the police were over at this house last night. What was that about? So there's a 72-hour dispatch log there, and this information is on our website as well. So not as if we're trying to keep any information from anyone, but there's a 72-hour dispatch log there. There's a 7-day arrest log there as well. And once again, the public information officer, she does a phenomenal job with posting events and letting the public know where we're going to be. I ran into a mom in the grocery store the other day, and she had 2 little ones with her and just wanted to make sure they were at a safe event for Halloween. So I shared the trunk or treat information with her. So she's like, I'll see you there. I'm like, okay. So I'm open for questions if you have any.
Questions for Chief Fred? Thank you. Never want to say it's good news as far as crime goes, but this sure seems to be pretty good news.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm like, no questions.
Commissioner Bravo.
Chief, I know you mentioned that the police department has invested in some updating the technology.
Mm-hmm.
I know you mentioned the license plate readers. what other areas have you updated for your department?
Mr. Bravo wants me to give out our secrets. So, yeah, so the license plates readers I mentioned earlier, intersection cameras, our body cameras, and just to even talk about victimless prosecution around domestic violence, because just understanding that cycle and a survivor maybe not wanting to come to court, but when the judge or the jurors can see that responding officer's interaction with that victim, the body cams have taken us so much further because you can't recreate that as it's unfolding. The technology it continues to extend. We recently invested in a company that's purchased their product that's called Force Metrics. And just imagine from law enforcement, if I'm an officer on the street and I'm looking for Jane Smith, for instance, and Force Metric allows us to pull information from our multiple databases, from traffic citations or a car accident to Jane Smith may have been listed in our legacy data, to some other current software, vehicles that may be registered to Jane Smith as well. Force Metrics is how would I describe it? It is a Google for law enforcement on steroids. So our legacy data holds a lot of information. And so that would qualify our old records management system to a newer system that we transitioned to, I want to say in 2021 perhaps. But it pulls information, AI driven. It goes out and searches exactly what we're looking for, and it pulls it all into one central hub. And it was instrumental for us with solving one of the recent murders as well.
I have one more question about the technology.
Yes.
Because you mentioned cameras at intersections. Does that also include things like, I don't want to, red light cameras? I know people don't like those, but I'm also noticing how many people are barreling through intersections after the light changes. Are there any kind of things that are related to enforcement at those intersections?
So without having home rule, we're not allowed to implement red light cameras, unfortunately. So there's some other technologies out there, and I would tell anyone, we have a traffic division that's dedicated to traffic enforcement. So we monitor those complaints that come in and shift personnel to ensure that they're mindful of those locations, as well as the patrol officers when they're on dedicated time. But of course, they're not going to do it when they see a marked car. So I drive an unmarked car, for instance, so I am one that will still pull you over. So of course, when they see the lights coming from my vehicle, they're like, "What is this?" So yeah, we do our best, and it seems to never fail. Whenever I'm on my way to a meeting or I have to be somewhere, there's somebody that has literally lost their mind in driving, and so, yeah.
Is there also, so when we were talking about the reports out to the community that are available out to the community on the finance and that are like digestible or whatever, I just found your slides super interesting. And how does that information get out to the public? And I say that as a newer person to Rockford, so maybe there is like a billboard or something that I just don't know about. But I'm so impressed with, as a newer resident, like what people would tell me, oh, Rockford, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I got here, I'm like, what are you talking about? Look what a good job this department is doing. Look at these numbers.
Right.
So how do they get out to the community?
So we a couple times a year, we'll push information out on our social media page. We invite our media partners in as well. We'll hold various press conferences just to share the good news. And like I said, with social media and doing the press conferences, that's kind of how it gets out.
Yeah. So it's just such a hard job that you do. I just want you to have the credit.
Yeah.
that's due in the community, so,
No.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Commissioner Garwick.
Thank you, Chief Red, for the work you and your officers are doing.
You're welcome.
My question is this. If I'm doing 5 over the speed limit, is that a ticket or a warning?
So you technically can get a ticket.
Because we know you're watching.
Yeah, you can technically receive a ticket, but I will tell you, 5 miles over the speed limit is not traditionally someone that we will stop.
Oh, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, 10, do I hear 10?
That sounds like press my luck, So, yeah.
Well, on the technology side, I would just like to give a testimony to dashboard cams.
Okay.
Which I think are a fantastic thing, because I had a instance where I'm sitting at a light and a guy came out of nowhere and hit me, and there was an officer sitting right there, and he comes over and he says, I got it all on my dashboard cam.
Yeah. Well, so hopefully you FOIA that if you needed it for the insurance company or whether that driver just admitted fault.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the chief? I actually have one. What would you like us to do? Too often we hear these really great reports from city managers and leaders, and we, don't really know what to do with it. What would you like us to do in terms of spreading the word in the community?
I would say that you have contacts and you're in your circles that we're not necessarily in. Just share the information. We run a Citizens Police Academy twice a year. We actually have one that's going right now. So we invite the public in, and we advertise those all over the place to get residents to come in. I used to teach that class, so I can speak a lot about it. But we want our residents to come in and see how we operate and understand how we do what we do and why we do what we do. And from there, quite often we take in volunteers that come back and they want to volunteer for the police department at community events. So that's a big help, because they're taking a weight off of some of the officers, because we really need them to go out and interact with our residents and not necessarily be manning a station and serving hot dogs. One of our greatest partnerships right now is with the Salvation Army. They have stepped up and done such a phenomenal job. When we do the block parties and things of that nature in the summertime, there was always an officer on the grill or cooking or doing something. And with this partnership, it allows them to go out and they can jump rope and interact with the kids and do other things and not be dedicated there. But yeah, it's like the good news. Just share the good news and tell them about the information that you received. And
Thank
also let those know that are eligible, we're hiring.
Madam Chair, just one question. I know we're looking at, hiring new officers. How many active officers do we have now, and what's the comfortable number that you're looking?
So right now we're sitting at 276 officers. The authorized strength is 302. Okay. So with that, it takes roughly a year for a new officer from the time we hire them, send them to the academy for 16 weeks. They come back, do another 6 weeks of training in-house, more classroom training, and from there, they're on the street training with a field training officer for another 20 weeks. So one thing for certain, the officers, when they hit the street and they're on solo patrol, they're well trained. So we have not circumvented any of our processes. We have not diminished our requirements. Our standards have remained the same. I know there are other departments that have eliminated various parts of the testing process that they once had in place, but I feel that those processes are in place for a reason. They carry enough weight and they're valuable enough to me where I'm not going to exclude any of them. Okay.
Any other questions for Chief Red? Thank you very much. You made my night
Oh,
with that
good.
account of you pulling over speeders.
Oh, yeah. There are some out there that will tell you that they were, they got it.
Thank you.
They didn't think it was fair because I wasn't in a marked car. But.
Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, I confess to not know about item D. Are we going to do that or not?
Yeah, I just had a few things I wanted to bring up to the commission. Thank you, Chief. So I had met with Eric a few weeks ago, and then I've also recently met with the mayor for the commission. One of the things that I wanted to do, and I'd like to present it to you all as well, is I'd like to do a strategic planning for the CRC. I've gotten some feedback from some of the commissioners. We want to be a more actionable commission. We want tangible results. So one of the things I think that would be really great for us to do is spend some time together and plan for the future and tie goals or projects that we want to work on with actual outcomes. Because truly the commission should be making formal recommendations to city leadership, whether it's for policy change, updates to ordinances, different types of recommendations. And those recommendations are coming from the conversations that you all are having, not only in the community, but at these meetings. Those are those panel discussions. These are the reports that we're getting from different members of city staff or from outside community members as well. So that's something that I would like to do. I'm looking at potentially a Saturday morning. It is something that would have to be part of the Open Meetings Act. So that would we'd have to publish an agenda and things of that nature. But one of the things we would do training on Robert's rules, maybe engaging in the community, different types of events or things like that. Some of the things that I would like you all to think about what this agenda could look like, because I want you to contribute to that agenda, are what do you want the CRC's mission to be in the next couple of years? What are things that you would like to focus on? I did a lot of research on commissions throughout the state, and a lot of them, and our ordinance details this as well. It's fair housing, it's anti-discrimination, it's all of those types of things. So a lot of other commissions, they're doing like cultural Black parties, they're participating in Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, LGBTQ month, those types of things. And I talked to the mayor, and he's fully supportive of however the commission wants to be a part of what the city is already doing. I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel, but what does that look like for the commission? What do you guys want to do? One of the areas that the commission or the mayor had mentioned as a need is potentially an ambassador type program to get information out into the community, to have people who want to be active and participate. That could be youth forums for civic leadership, things of that nature. So I think there's a wealth of possibility for the commission, and I'd like to do a strategic planning session for us. So I don't know if it would help if I sent out like a doodle poll or something like that to get a time frame that would work for everybody. But this is something where I'd like to be able to have the whole commission be in attendance. Do you guys have any questions about that, any concerns or any thoughts on that?
Feedback about that proposal?
I think that'd be a great idea, just to be able to, if you would send out like a doodle survey, that would be great.
Okay.
What month were you thinking of?
Well, I mean, we're approaching the end of the year here pretty quick. I would have liked to be able to do it before the end of the year because I'd like to start strategic planning for 2026. We already have a bit of a schedule, as you can see in the annual action plan, starting out 2026. So we could push it into early January if needed, but that's kind of within the next 3 months, I would like to get something on the calendar for us.
Any feedback from commissioners about what month works for you?
Well, I'm not sure it's a matter of what month works for you, because she's mentioning Saturday morning, which actually is usually okay for me in any month, except November. But that's a health issue. I think we need more definition. We've discussed this before, and we've made some steps. I like that we've been getting some updates of community events that are happening that we can attend. I also noticed that quite often I'll see where the mayor's been at an event and I'm going, well, that wasn't on my list. But so broadening that scope would certainly would help, because I'd love to be able to go to as many of these things as possible. So as far as a joint meeting to plan and get a little more directive, especially written down, I think probably your survey idea is the best.
Okay, I can do that. And then one other thing, Eric had mentioned, and I don't think he's had a chance to get it out, but he wanted to pose a list of questions for you all, kind of directing a little bit towards this, but also just some maybe different parameters for the commission to work within, such as attendance and things of that nature, and just kind of take a look back at that, and also what some future goals and things like that might be. So he's working on a list of questions, and then I think that has to come from us, right, for the opens meeting thing, so we don't violate anything there. But so if you please start thinking about what you guys would like to see. I'd like the strategic planning to cover the next 2 to 3 years potentially, and what we're kind of looking at from that perspective. So think about what you guys want to do. We have the mayor's support with all of those ideas, and however culturally you guys would like to be included, I think that that's right down the line for the commission. Whatever that looks like, the mayor wants to support that as well. So,
another question?
I didn't have a question. I was just going to say that I'm 100% on board. I think it sounds like a great idea, and I probably could make something work before January if that works for others.
Okay. Thank you.
You've covered this before, and I apologize for not remembering. As far as when our terms are over, is that on the website right now, or did you put something out that I missed?
It is not on the website right now. Do you want us to send out something letting folks know when terms are up?
That would be fantastic. I don't speak for the rest of you, but I know I would love to kind of see where we are in terms of the commissioners who are coming off and that sort of thing.
Sure, we can do that.
Any other feedback?
Also, with the, I think the doodle poll will be perfect. I think that we ought to, as a commission, balance what the city is doing in community, and it ought to be off balance, because as the commission, we should be focusing more on what the community is. And so, if we can get in alignment with what the mayor and the city is moving, and how we can kind of undergird that to be strategic with the policy recommendations. I've been on here long enough. We were part of the commission that did the body cam proposal, as well as the use of force policy that we have in place right now. But I think if we have more things like that moving forward, food insecurity, as well as housing, senior housing, those type of things that's going on in our community. We have lighting issues on all sides of town. So I love reports and all of that. I like updates, preferably Cliff Note updates. But it's good to see it. But I mean, that's good. But as far as the community, they want to see something that's more actionable and things that we can kind of present to City Council to move forward.
Yeah, I think well heard. I agree. I know it is part of the ordinance where we have to get updates from city leadership on certain things. But ideally, I'd love for you guys to put together who it is you want to hear from and when, and how you want to hear from them, and plan that out so that way it helps you guys do your job. So, absolutely.
That's great. I also would perhaps putting out there that Commissioner Martin mentioned this, think about your time on your time on the commission and what has been most rewarding for you and most fulfilling. Because some of you have been around for a while, and if you can reflect on that, I think that would help us in our process as well.
Absolutely.
All right, next item is commissioner reports. Do we have any reports? All right, do I have anything else? No? Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, very good. We are adjourned. Do I use this?
If you want to.
My one time.
Trying to do
Thank
that,
you
I
very
know.
much.